My name is Jonna Nummela. I'm a vice chair of Helsinki Poetry Connection, which is a spoken word and poetry collective based here in Helsinki. And I'm also a spoken word artist myself, and when I perform on stage, then I perform under a name Nihke Akka, which is in Finnish, and it translates into something like grumpy bitch. So I do like a feminist, angry feminist poetry. 10 years ago, when the collective started, our main aim really was just to make spoken word to become part of this art scene of Helsinki, because it wasn't really there, and we want to encourage like we call it like a low threshold. So we want to encourage everyone from different backgrounds, different artists, and different people who've maybe never tried poetry before to come to our events. So one of the important things is to keep them free of charge. So they're never ticketed events. All of our events are free, and when we can, we always organize an open mic. An open mic means everyone is free. Anyone who wants to perform gets 5 minutes on stage, and they can get on stage and perform their own poems or stories. We also incorporate song, and there's been singing and music, rap lyrics, or all those kind of things. So it's not purely just poetry, which I think makes our events and the scene more diverse and interesting. There's only so few people in the whole country. It's a small country anyway, and then the amount of poets, it's very small. So then we want to welcome everyone, just so we can keep it going. That's kind of how it started. So we couldn't afford to be picky. So we're like, please come, everyone could take the stage. But actually now it makes it more interesting. And also it helps other poets, who, like including myself, who actively perform. It helps my practice to see, oh, you can also incorporate beats, you can incorporate movement or music into your performance, which it's inspiring. And I think now when other people come and see it, they find that inspiring as well, and they can see different types of potential in spoken word and poetry. It doesn't just have to be one angry voice, or it can be many of other things, which is great. For me, maybe what I enjoy about Finnish language in relation to in comparison to English, I should say, it's that it's gender neutral, because my poems often evolve around like themes of gender and sexuality and identity. So for me, it's actually quite interesting writing in Finnish, where there's no gender pronouns. So you can't tell by the words that I'm using which gender or what gender I'm referring to. Whereas if you use English, then it's he or she all the time, and then that kind of that directs your reading or interpretation of it. I can only speak on my behalf, but that's for me it's where the big important difference is between the languages. I personally I believe very strongly about poetry being a way of self-expression, and I enjoy autobiographical work and exploring people's experiences and listening and learning through. I've written a poem about young women and their experiences, because already you sometimes get this feedback of like, oh, you're a young woman writing about your own experience. It's like, we've heard that before. Like, it's a bit. That's a bit seen, isn't it? That's boring. No, like, don't you have anything else to say? I was like, no, because I'm writing about my experience, and no, you haven't heard this before because you haven't heard it from me. I want to raise awareness through my work, but I'm not saying that it's what. Not every poem has to be political. I'm not a big fan of poems about nature, but we're in a country that's 70% of forest. I'm not surprised that people want to write about animals and birds flying and beautiful lakes, and that's nice. That's great, and there's room for everybody. But for me, it's self-expression and a political act as well to work as a poet and an artist. Well, I could say art for me is self-expression. First and foremost, for me, it's a way of for me to deal with the world and issues and thoughts and ideas and connect with other people as well. I think for many writers who tend to be a bit introverted, especially poetry and writing is a way of connecting and writing stories, and if they read it and they're like, oh, I see you now, then they can connect through stories. So yeah, that was a very long sentence, it wasn't a one word. Art for me is self-expression. If you need to cut that, you can use it.